DJI Pocket 3 and Tilta Hydra Alien Mini? Is that the ultimate entry-level rig for roller shots? I spent last week testing this combo, more than 6 hours driving with this thing, so you already owe me a like. I have more than 4 hours of footage recorded, and I think I found the perfect setup for this rig. If you want to see what this arm is about and how it works, watch my first video of the series here. It was actually a struggle, and I thought for the moment that I wasted my $300, 200 for the arm and 100 for the duties and taxes. But in the end, I managed to record the footage, which is amazing considering the price of the whole setup. Whole rig is around $1,000, camera included, and you can record up to 4K 120p. If you want something similar with a mirrorless camera, then you need Sony A7 III for 3.5K, $600 to $1,100 for the gimbal, and at least $1,300 for normal size Hydra arm. So like $5.5 at least. I think that the final product, the footage, is great. Again, caveat is that I do not use ND filters with my Pocket 3 because I do not own them. So stabilization might be a bit better here than with the filters and 180 degrees shutter. Generally, faster shutter speed equals less shakes in the footage. But let me start from the beginning. I started with the control shot just with the small rig suction cup and Pocket 3 to check maybe it's enough for car shots. But just starting my diesel engine caused the video to jello, so it was unusable even on tarmac. It's not even worth mentioning cobblestones. Then I tested the Pocket 3 just on Hydra Mini installed in the Pocket 3 bracket, upright and directed to the side like this to have 135 degrees gimbal movement to each direction. It wasn't much better, still a lot of jello effect even on tarmac. Hydra Mini arm has been set to 11 turns of the tension. It was better than just the suction cup, but definitely not $200 better. I think it was even worse on the cobblestones than just the suction cup, so to test it further, I adjusted the tension to just 8 turns to see if it's any better. But the test was conducted later in the day, in the evening, so shutter speed was different, lower, so I treated the results as not conclusive, but they were bad. Although parts of the tarmac shots were better than before, and I have also tested 60p and it was even better than 25p on tarmac because of the faster shutter speed, but still not great. What I've seen is that the camera tends to move very abruptly to the sides, which seems to cause the jello effect. I even recreated this effect by just shaking the camera in my hand. The next day I tested all the tension settings on which the arm was kinda parallel to the ground. So since 8 was not great, I tested 7.5, 7, 6.5, 6, 5, 4, then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14, again with the P3 bracket. To speed things up, I just ran on the cobblestones and the dirt road. And none of the footage was good enough. Then I've done some more research, and what I've seen is that to get better results, it's better to mount the Pocket 3 upside down. Why? It seems when the camera is mounted upright, the abrupt movements of the car, engine and suspension side moves are exaggerated on the end of the camera. When mounted upside down, it seems they are less pronounced. Maybe actually the connection between camera and Q20 part dampens them a bit. The results were much better on every surface, but still not satisfactory for myself. So I pulled out the ultimate weapon, Insta360 camera damper. It is kinda the same thing a big Hydra setup has. It has a big damper for small shakes for big camera, so this one might work the same way, and some users reported this as a solution for their jello effect with Vaxis MoveMax arm. But I've seen the reviews of the damper alone, and the footage with Insta360 cameras like X3 was much worse than without it. But here it was mounted upside down, so I thought it might actually work. I had to adjust the shape of the rig to prevent the camera from hitting the hood, and of course tension, because this Insta360 damper is quite heavy. So with the damper it looked like that, still with the camera mounted to the side, but to the other side because the camera is upside down. And to my surprise, the footage became really smooth, even though the shakes of the camera were more visible at the tension 10.5. I was just shocked when I saw the cobblestones footage with the damper. And during this test it was very cloudy, so the shutter speed was not working in my favor. But the footage was amazing. There was still some jello effect from time to time, but only when the arm hit the maximum position. It happens because the arm is stopped very abruptly and causes camera sensor to shake. It is the case for the bottom and the top position. So then I tested the rig on the roof with 11 turns of the tension, and then on the back of the car with 11.5. Of course, I tested both setup without the damper too, and the results were much worse. Jello was visible even when the car was not moving, just engine shakes. With the damper, the whole rig still shakes to the sides, but now the shakes are not that abrupt, so they not cause much of the jello effect anymore. It seems there is some jello sometimes, but it's not located on the edges on the frame, so it is not that noticeable. You can spot it on the cobblestones looking at the road while the camera is on the roof. It seems that the shakes are more visible in the center of the frame with the damper, opposed to the corners or whole frame without it. Sometimes there is still some jello effect, but mostly when the car hits very big bump on the road and the arm goes to max position. Or on the cobblestones where there are also potholes there, so it is a very extreme scenario for the suspension. In my opinion, this is a very good result for the price of this setup. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Then I also tested this rig with my wife's car, which has adjustable and more advanced suspension. It is also a petrol car in contrast to my diesel, so it might be the case it has less engine shakes. My diesel has got more engine shakes after the last change of the timing gears. It's kinda atrocious now. So I've tested my wife's car with two settings of the suspension, normal and comfort, and with and without Insta360 damper. I also did a quick test with just a section cap to see if maybe better suspension of the car eliminates the need of the arm, but it doesn't. You need the arm and the damper to have an acceptable results. Maybe the comfort setting and the damper were okay for the dirt road and tarmac, but not for the cobblestones. And it seems that comfort setting, more plush suspension, introduces more shakes to the footage, even with the Insta360 damper. Normal was much better, and I even now think that sport might be an even better choice, much stiffer one. But my week has just 168 hours, so it was not possible to test it further, especially that with normal suspension and on my diesel the footage was good enough. After this test I collected 3.5 hours of Pocket 3 car footage. And also because of the low settings of the damper, I managed to duck up the paint job of my wife's car a bit. Camera was hitting the hood and I was afraid about Pocket 3, but it turned out that actually the hood was the casualty in this case. Then we also shot, thanks to courtesy of my wife, some dedicated roller shots using both cars. You've seen it in the intro. I can definitely recommend Tilta Hydra Alien Mini arm, but only with some kind of the damper for small shakes like Intra 360 damper. There is also a Vaxis damper available, but I haven't tested it, so cannot say it is also a good solution. This combo would work for any Thermax shot without a sweat. With the damper, the engine shake is eliminated, so no jello effect. I also wonder about the electric cars. They do not have such a shake as combustion engines, and about the cars with the Hydra pneumatic or multi-link suspension. I might be able to test such a cars in the future, but at least here in Poland they are quite niche, and if someone sports a Tesla, she should be able to afford 200 bucks for the arm to test it. If you want to record off-road footage exclusively, I think I won't recommend it, because anytime the arm hits the maximum position, either on top or on the bottom, quite hardcore jello is introduced to the footage. And such shakes are introduced more often off-road because the arm has limited travel. I tried to test the arm without the counterweight, but then the camera was too light and it was even worse. The arm was flying around. And this is all about DJI Pocket 3. Action 5 Pro actually does not need the arm. Check my video about it here. I will also try to test the small mirrorless soon, but first I need some beefy suction cup to be able to attach mirrorless directly to the car to have a comparison with the arm. And Insta360 damper supports 250 grams maximum, so it won't work with mirrorless, unfortunately. That's why I do not expect mirrorless results to be amazing, but maybe electronic stabilization or IBIS of my OM5 will be enough. It also seems that the stiffer suspension of the car works better. I am actually surprised. And seems my basic MacPherson suspension car is doing better in this case than more advanced adjustable suspension of the much newer car. It is probably related to the weight of the car and its distribution. The external Insta360 damper eliminates jello effect on the corners of the footage where they are very visible, but I think it reintroduces them a bit onto the center of the image. When the damper is used, I get a feeling like the center is a bit more jelly-like than without it. But generally, I think that for the money, this setup is great. But if you want something cheaper, you can go with an action camera with built-in stabilization and just a plain suction cup. But then you won't be able to record any tracking shots like with the Pocket 3. Actually, with the Pocket 3, you can set the tracking in the camera, and in 90% of situations, you do not need an operator to get great roller shots. And about the tension of the arm, it depends on the setup and the car. Seems that with the heavier car, I have to set a higher setting to eliminate the arm hitting the maximum position. I use the tension 10.5 to 11.5 with my 18 years old Megane, but on the bigger SUV I have to use at least 13. This might be also because the hood has a different shape, less sloped, but I am not 100% sure. So I cannot tell you what is the ultimate setting of the tension, because it seems it depends on the suspension of the car too. But with the Insta damper, anything below 10 was definitely too saggy. Anyway, I hope this video will help you make an informed purchase decision. There is also a cheaper Vaxis MoveMax arm, and Vaxis has their own damper, which is also cheaper than this Insta 360 damper, but I cannot tell you if it's better or worse because I haven't tested it. Although I've seen people using Vaxis arm and Insta 360 damper on YouTube, and they pulled really nice shots. I can also release all my footage, probably shortened to like 2 hours, but there is some swearing included, so it is at least PG-13. Let me know in the comments if you are interested to see the whole thing with all the settings I used and experimented with. Anyway, you owe me a like, and cheers, mate! Maybe this damper is actually a good idea if this is upside down, because I've seen people testing this damper and it doesn't work if this in normal position, but maybe upside down it works. Let's see. No, it is, the whole thing is shaking, so I doubt it, but let's see. Now it's like, I think 10.5 turns of the tension, and it's shaking to the sides. Maybe the shakes are not that abrupt. The arm is working, and the whole setup is heavier because this damper is quite heavy. So let's see. I hope this won't deattach and it won't hit the bonnet. So I'm doing 50 here. There are some bumps in this tarmac, and then I will go 20 on the cobblestones up to 30. 25 now. Whoa, whoa, this, I doubt that it would be usable. Let me slow down to 20. It is 20. 20. I will do 30. I think it moves differently, it moves more to the sides, but I doubt that the cobblestones footage would be usable. It's hard to judge on the screen because the screen is bouncing around also, and there is some guy going, so let me do 30. Do a small detour here and try to do 30 on the cobblestones. Well, I will do 30 later. Okay, so I'm doing 10. The camera almost hit the bonnet. Doing 20. Went to maximum position, but I think at least I haven't heard the hit. So 30 and 40. It definitely shakes differently. It shakes more to the side, which I think would be worse than before. But, and this damper is 50 bucks. It's crazy. It's even more like 70 bucks. Crazy. But maybe I will try to attach it to the back of the car to see if this is any good. Maybe first to the roof. So I'm doing 50 on the bridge,